When my valleys were much deeper than the peaks that I once saw far ahead.
Out of all of the new songs that I've released recently as Brother Kestrel, Stronger was one of the first ones that I had written in, I guess what you could call a new batch of original music. I had actually written Stronger several years ago that got the original idea for it based on a lot of things that were happening in my life at the time, and it was relatively unfinished until I was looking for ideas in songs I had already started, and I thought it would be a good idea to finish it by adding any missing lyrics that I had not come up with yet. The instrumentation for Stronger is pretty simple. In fact, it's actually one of the few songs that has the least amount of instruments in the recording. The main instrument is an acoustic guitar, which you hear right at the very beginning, except it's in an open tuning. It's tuned to open D, which is a tuning that I've become fond of recently from the artists that I like to listen to. A lot of them use open tuning, such as open D. And I put it on capo 3, which puts it into the key of F. And I thought that the key of F has a very soothing sound to it. I'm sure that probably sounds a little strange, but I like to think that every key in music has a feel to it, and that, you know, it's a good idea to try and tap into those feelings that each key represents. I feel like Stronger is an especially emotional song. I believe that a lot of the message comes from a very vulnerable place. Thinking of times where things weren't so good, and understanding that I was going to make it through those times, although it never seems that way whenever you're going through something. The first line, when my valleys were much deeper than the peaks that I saw far ahead, kind of alludes to how I had these really lofty goals, these ideals, almost in the distance that I could see, that I feel like I would get to one day, but at that time it was a lot more difficult, and there were a lot more tribulations to be experienced before I could make it out. Then by the end of the song, I do make it out in the very last verse, and even though it's almost coming to a surprise, at the same time it's almost like the answer was always right in front of me. And talking about how I thought that I was going through the valley alone, when in reality it was people that were by my side the whole time that I may not have realized were beside me the entire time. I think Stronger is probably one of my favorite newer songs that I've written, mainly because of its simplicity. I like how I only really arranged for guitar and several violin tracks, almost arranged to a quartet of sorts, and I think that they all complement each other really well. And that, along with the vocals that I've overdubbed so that it gives kind of this unity to it, where during the verses it sounds like I'm singing almost by myself. Then whenever the choruses come in, the other vocals give the feel that I'm not by myself, that I'm actually supported by others around me. I certainly feel like Stronger will probably be one of the more popular songs off of the release, partially because of its simplicity, but also because I feel like it's very easy to relate to. I think that a lot of people have gone through very similar situations, and that's part of what my message as Brother Kestrel is about. You know, these things that I go through and I choose to talk about are things that other people go through too. And my hope is that whoever listens to it can see that connection and understand that just as I wasn't alone during those times, they're not alone either.